Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soapman is in the house. Are you familiar with the story of King David in the Bible? Most people have heard of the story of King David in the Bible, or at least they've heard of the battle between David and Goliath. The story of King David is one of the most iconic and memorable stories in history. And if you haven't read it, you definitely should. Now, if you're at all familiar with this story, then you know that before David became king, he was a shepherd. Now, the Bible gives a very brief summary of David's childhood, but in it there is one account that I believe is very indicative and almost prophetic as to how and why he will later be king. One day, as David is tending his father's sheep, a lion comes and steals one of the sheep, and David kills the lion and saves the sheep. Now let me repeat that. I said David kills the lion and saves the sheep. Now, all sorts of things come to mind when you hear something like this. For a man to slay a lion would seem to me to be a difficult task in and of itself. One that would be impossible for the likes of me, because I'm not about to attempt to fight no lion in the first place. David is no Samson, who is said to have killed a lion also, but Samson was also renowned for demonstrating supernatural feats of great strength, meaning Samson was known for being strong. David, on the other hand, was not. To my knowledge, David didn't have supernatural strength, or at least the Bible never says so. So then the question begs, what type of lion are we talking about? Okay? We talking about like a mountain lion, or, you trying to wrap your head around a man killing a lion. So the question is, we talking a bobcat? What are you selling here? Well, the Bible seems to answer that question because it tells us how David slew the beast. It says that he grabbed it by the beard and slew it with a staff. Now, when the Bible says that David grabbed the lion by the beard, it makes me think mane, as in the mane on a big ass lion. Me and my brother Terry got into a huge argument over this very subject. He said to me, "Look, Ninja, ain't nobody killed no lion with no stick." And that's exactly what he said to me. I'm quoting him verbatim. He said, "Ninja, ain't no man killing no lion with no stick. No man." He further went on to say, "I know staff. It's my favorite weapon. So who would know better than me what a man is capable of doing with a staff?" So what he's saying is, let me give you a little bit of context. My brother, at one point in time in his life, was like champion in his division in martial arts competition. And so he trained and was trained and liked to train with various different weapons. And his favorite weapon of all was the staff. So what he's saying to me is, so I know this, but you may not know this. When he says, "I know staff," what he's saying is he has more experience with this subject than I do. He knows how to use a staff. Who would know? Who better would know the capabilities, the limits of a man, of what a man could do with a staff? Who better to know than him? He's an expert, is what he's saying. And furthermore, he's saying, I don't care how good a man is with a staff. I don't care how hard he trains. I don't care how many hours he puts in. He ain't killing no lion. And bruh got a point. I feel him. I try to tell him David's no ordinary man. He says, no. Nah, I'm not buying it. And neither is a lot of other people. Terry says the Bible is clear. The Bible is clear on this matter how David defeated this lion. It says that God delivered the lion into David's hands. And ladies and gentlemen, what Terry meant by that was very clear. Look, my brother is right. The Bible does indeed say that God delivered the lion into David's hands. But it also says that God delivered Goliath into David's hands also. And there's no talk of flashing lights or thunderbolts coming down from storm cloud. When David kills Goliath, it's with a sling and a stone. David will go on to do many great acts before ascending the throne. One of them being the slaying of the giant Goliath, whom the Bible also states God delivered into David's hand. Like with the killing of the lion, nothing magical happens. There are no flashes of light, no lightning, no thunder, no voices from heaven. Just David and a sling and a stone. David performs the impossible in killing the lion, but he also saves the sheep. As you see depicted here on this slide, you see him with his knee in the neck of the lion while holding a very healthy lamb. We can all agree that aside of something supernatural occurring, this would take a very unique and uncanny skill set to accomplish. What I'm saying is, one would require a certain amount of genius in strategic combat, a mastery of the sciences of the world, a comprehension and understanding so vast and advanced, in so much that the lion really wouldn't stand a chance. Because you're not just killing the lion, but also simultaneously protecting the sheep as you do so. What I'm saying is we talking about one bad mofo here. Such is the case with Moses. Oh yeah, if you were impressed by David, let me just tell you, David can't even hold a candle to Moses. Because what Moses did was exponentially more difficult than what David did with the lion. Imagine killing thousands of lions while saving millions of sheep. We've all heard of what Moses did at the Red Sea. Moses got Pharaoh to let the children of Israel go, but Pharaoh broke his promise and went back on his word. And this initially appears to put Moses at a huge disadvantage. But in the end, things end up being a catastrophe for Pharaoh. Both he and the entirety of his army are drowned in the Red Sea. The one thing that I don't think people appreciate about this story is that Moses was burdened with the care of millions of people. These people trusted Moses enough to leave the only home they had known and follow him into the desert. They depended on him and they trusted him and they looked to him for protection. And Moses in turn felt a duty and a responsibility to do just that. Pharaoh thought he had the upper hand against Moses. Sure, Moses had superior numbers and fighting men, but more than half of the people with Moses were women and children and elderly. His ranks, the ranks of his army, were inundated with non-combatants. These women and children and elderly and even some of the soldiers, these were the families of these soldiers. Well, they were the families of many of the soldiers at least, but they had their sheep and cattle and livestock with them. What was Moses going to do? Form a shield wall with a granny on one side of you and a ram on the other? And Pharaoh knew this. Pharaoh knew that Moses could not possibly fight him with all of these non-combatants mixed in with his fighting troops. Just like David, Moses kills the lion while saving and protecting the sheep. He does not lose a single sheep, and he left no lion alive. And though the Red Sea crossing was without a doubt Moses' greatest miracle of all, it was hardly his only one. Moses performed miracles both prior to the Red Sea crossing and after. In fact, miracles just seem to follow Moses wherever he goes, don't they? Everywhere Moses goes, miracles are occurring. Ladies and gentlemen, this is because Moses is the miracle. Let me say that again. Ladies and gentlemen, the miracle is Moses himself. And that's why miracles always happen around him. Folks, I want to thank you for joining me for this installment of Son of a Preacher Man. If you're new to this channel or enjoy this type of content, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any compliments, comments, insults, or inquiries, please leave them in the comments section. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or questions you'd like me to answer, please leave them in the comments section. I'll see you next time, same soap channel, we out.